All right, thank you for joining me today. I am Mrs. Loss, and this is one lesson in my online video tutorial series. Today I would like to discuss with you the subtraction property of equality. Would you please make sure that you write in your notes proper heading and your objective today. You're getting really good at putting your note format together nicely. Our objective is to solve equations using the subtraction property of equality. Now that sounds like a lot of fancy language that basically means a pretty simple concept. So let's talk about what that means. Algebraically speaking, if I have x plus 2 is equal to 8. Now we have done these problems all through our math career up to this point. We can very easily figure out the answer. But what I want you to understand is that the key here is to isolate this variable. I need to get x all alone. And to do that, I need to eliminate this plus 2. I need to get rid of it, and I need it to go away so that x is all alone. And to do that, I want to perform the opposite operation. The opposite operation of addition is subtraction. It's also known as the inverse operation. And to do that, I am going to subtract 2. But it's really important to understand that I need to subtract 2 from both sides of my equation. And I can determine both sides to the right or to the left of the equal sign. When I do this, this cancels out and I get x is equal to 6. It's very basic. So let's take this problem here and let's put some very purposeful steps in place. I'd like you to write these in your notes, please, that you will be turning in to me at the end of the chapter. For rules for transforming equations, we're going to be actually using this for the next several lessons, so it's important that you write these down and also come back and refer to the video as necessary. So the goal in the problem, as simple as this, is to isolate the variable on one side of the equation. And we did that already in our previous example. The second thing to keep in mind is that you always want to perform the same operation to both sides of the equation. Both sides of the equation. And we did that here. We subtracted 2 from both sides of the equation. That is absolutely key. The third thing that you need to understand about transforming equations is that you will undo an operation by performing its opposite operation to both sides. So we undid this plus 2 by subtracting. We use the opposite operation. We got rid of the plus 2 by subtracting, and again to both sides of the equation. That is key. Make sure you do both sides of the equation. So please make sure that you write down these notes to refer to later on. And let's go ahead and put some of this into practice. So here are 6 basic problems. I'd like you to work these out on a clear board or a whiteboard or a piece of paper that you may have at home. It's also perfectly acceptable to go ahead and put these samples in your notes. They are not too long and shouldn't take up too much space. I'll go ahead and do the first one with you, and then we'll go ahead and pause and let you work through them on your own. So here I have x plus 4 is equal to 12. I again want to isolate the variable. I need to perform the opposite operation of addition, which is subtraction. So I will subtract 4 from both sides of my equation. And again, I know I'm doing both sides because I have a right and I have a left side of my equal sign. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm subtracting 4 from both sides. This becomes 0. I get x is equal to 8. There it is. All right, so I'll go ahead and pause and let you work on the next 5 problems to yourself. All right, thank you. I hope that you had an opportunity to work through these problems. They are pretty basic. Let's just go ahead and review them together. This time I want to isolate the variable y, and I'm going to do that by subtracting 8 from both sides of the equation. Remember, the opposite operation of addition is subtraction. So here we go. When I do that, we end up with y is equal to 3. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract 3 from both sides of the equation to isolate this variable. When we do that, we get n is equal to 8. Coming over here for number 4, quickly, we're going to add 5. Now this looks a little different because the variable is now on the right side of the equation instead of the left side of the equation, but don't let that fool you. It's the same process. You're going to subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. You're going to do that and you get 7 is equal to x. Same thing here, we're going to subtract 3 to isolate the variable, and we get 9 is equal to n. Now take a look at number 6. The variable is already isolated. You don't have to do anything. You just simply need to add 12 plus 3. And when you do that, you end up with 15. All right, pretty easy breezy lemon squeezy. Here are a couple of word problems I would like you to look at. This again is looking at the language of mathematics, and we have to read this sentence very carefully, and we are going to end up writing an equation, a mathematical equation, and then we're going to isolate the variables and solve. So here we have the sum of k and 17 is 28. Remember, we talk about is means the equal sign. Sum we know is addition. So we're going to start decoding this a little bit. The sum of k and 17. So the sum of k and 17, here's our sum, here's our k, here's our 17, is, here's our is, 28. We need to isolate our variable by subtracting 17 from both sides, and we get k is equal to 11. Go ahead and work on number 2 by yourself, and I'll meet you back here in a minute and we'll discuss it. All right, hopefully you had a chance to go ahead and try number 6. Let's go ahead and translate this one. 6 is, there's our equal, the sum of t and 4. So you should have put a sentence together that looks very similar to this. 6 equals t plus 4. I want to isolate that variable by subtracting 4 from both sides of the equation, and I get 2 is equal to t. All right, excellent. Here is the page that you're going to be working on in class tomorrow, but I would like you to do a few problems tonight, if you will. Why don't you go ahead and do 1 through 4. Give yourself a little bit of practice, and then we'll work on this tomorrow in class. If you want to go ahead and read through these word problems and start familiarizing yourself with some of the language here, we'll work in teams tomorrow, and we'll make a good go of it. So thank you for listening once again, and please go ahead and rewatch as necessary.